Nintendo is the most greedy company in the history of the gaming industry. But if earlier they simply sold consoles and games to their fans at inflated prices, now they want to steal money from everyone. Previously, Nintendo only protected Mario's mustache, but now they have somehow decided that they own the very concept of what a video game is. Not long ago, Nintendo obtained patents for some game mechanics that, according to them, they invented themselves. These patents state that things like calling allies and switching between mounts are Nintendo's property and should only be used in their games. First, whoever approved these patents should be brought to justice and held accountable. That's me personally. Second, this has been in every game, from Elden Ring to World of Warcraft, for many years. This is no longer about protecting innovation. This is a war against it. For me, this epitomizes everything that is wrong with modern game development. Corporate greed that stifles progress both in games and technology. And if you think Nintendo just wants to increase its profits or prevent its revolutionary gameplay mechanics from being stolen, or simply wants to destroy its competitors, that's not the case. In fact, everything this demonic company, which hides behind cheerful, colorful characters, is doing right now will soon change the entire gaming industry forever. And it will look like shit. Let's talk in detail about what exactly is in these patents and how it affects others developers and where it's all going. A couple of years ago, Nintendo filed requests for some of their own technologies, but due to bureaucracy, they only have now been officially granted these patents. The first of the two describes a mechanic such as summoning a companion who will automatically fight enemies for you. You press a button, an ally appears, and he attacks any enemy nearby. However, even if the images in the document show Nintendo game graphics, this does not mean that they invented this technology. The second patent is for riding animals, literally jumping on or off a ground or flying creature. When I read this document, I had felt ashamed that I had played and enjoyed Red Dead Redemption 2. When I was riding my horse looking at these incredible landscapes, I couldn't even imagine that the assholes at Rockstar had shamelessly stolen everything from Nintendo's Horse Club adventures. But seriously, this is a fundamental mechanic that has existed in every game featuring horses for about 30 years. Imagine that a small studio creates a prototype companion system that was not only in Nintendo games, then the developers from this small studio are not thinking about whether it will be fun. Instead, they would be thinking, will this bankrupt us? Will we be sued? Can we afford the legal fees? And will we be forced to play Mario Kart for the rest of our lives? That's how easy it is to stifle creativity across an entire industry. What Nintendo has done has gone way beyond protecting characters. They are trying to own fundamental game mechanics, the building blocks of how games work in general. But what could possibly motivate a multi-billion-dollar company with millions of fans willing to pay $80 for a game that looks like it was from 2005 to ban other developers from using basic gameplay mechanics in their games? Envy. They filed these patents right after the little survival game with companion creatures became the biggest game in the world. Pocket Pair, a small indie studio, released Parworld. You all know this game very well. It gathered over 2.1 million concurrent players on Steam alone and sold 15 million copies in its first year. Overnight, it became a real competitor for Nintendo. It's important to understand that Nintendo hasn't had any real competition in a very long time. All the big developers and studios have focused on the real development of the gaming industry, while Nintendo has captured the entire niche of family-friendly gaming and portable consoles. And I have nothing against Switch 2. It's actually a good console, but their strategy of selling overpriced consoles and overpriced cartoon games is definitely not for me. If I really want to play with something childish, I have a penis for that. Okay, but let's get back to Palworld. It's obvious that this game takes inspiration from Pokemon. But Pocket Pair did what Nintendo refused to do for the last 20 years. They added survival, base buildings, weapons. In short, they improved and expanded on what Nintendo couldn't do in decades. And the sales figures proved it. The demand for something like this was huge. Nintendo simply ignored this demand. But instead of competing by creating better games, Nintendo chose a legal battle. A few months after the release of Palworld, they filed a patent infringement lawsuit against Pocket Pair. And the craziest thing is that they filed the patents we talked about after Palworld's success. They saw what worked, rushed to patent it, and sued those who dared to innovate. But it's strange that they didn't go further. I swear to God, I'm sure the Palworld developers used keyboards to write the code for this game. You'll be shocked, but Nintendo developers used that before them. What the fuck? Why didn't Nintendo sue Sony, who also used Japanese people to create games? Or why didn't they sue Starbucks, who, just like them, sell shit to their customers? But let's get back to real life, which, as it turns out, isn't very fair. As a result of the legal wrangling, the small studio Pocket Pair had to cut key mechanics from the game. They removed the ball throwing, which, by the way, is another Nintendo patent, also filed after the launch of Palworld. They had to change the game after its release because Nintendo decided that the basic game mechanics belonged to them. This is not intellectual property protection. This is suppression of competition through intimidation. Of course, a small indie studio has far fewer resources, money, and lawyers to defend its rights than an entire corporation. And the saddest thing is that this is not new behavior, but systemic. In 2018, Nintendo sued Japanese studio Kalopal over their virtual joysticks. The 5-year legal battle ended with Kalopal having to pay Nintendo 3.3 billion yen, which is over $30 million, for having the ability to touch the screen and move characters using a virtual joystick. Because you see, Nintendo patented that too. Just think about how crazy that is. Every mobile game with motion controls, literally every mobile game, suddenly found itself in Nintendo's crosshairs. They essentially patented the very concept of moving as if they invented touchscreens. And you know what? I'm not afraid if Nintendo sues me after making this video. Sure, I don't have the money for fancy lawyers and I'll lose, but I'll serve a few years, then get out of prison, and I'll make a video about how your f***ing Mario's mustache has been degraded. And if you're feeling any aggression or hostility towards Nintendo after everything I've just said, I'll tell you that this is actually just a very small part of how terrible they really are.
I saw you dancing in a crowded room.
Imagine that a fan makes a cover for his favorite song, and the author of that song sues him for it. It's hard to even imagine because it's ridiculous. But not for Nintendo. They didn't just attack commercial studios. Nintendo destroyed hundreds of fan projects, mods, and everything else like that. Whole waves of fan works inspired by famous franchises received complaints and lawsuits. Anyone who came even close to anything resembling a Nintendo game. Projects like AM2R and Pokemon Uranium, games that fans had been working on for years because Nintendo itself quickly didn't make them, were simply destroyed. Just because fuck, I don't even know why. What the fuck? What is happening? In 2016, at the Game Awards, these two projects were even nominated for the best fan projects of the year, but Nintendo not only shut down these projects, but they also tried to remove any mention of fan projects related to their games, for which the company even asked the Game Awards to take the necessary measures. These games were not competitors. People created them out of love for Nintendo classics, not for profit. For more than 2 decades, Nintendo has responded to any innovation not with new games, but with lawsuits. For decades, they have consistently removed anyone who tries to do what they themselves are incapable of doing. The message to developers is clear. Any idea that even remotely resembles something that existed in the Nintendo universe, is potentially dangerous. They no longer just control Mario's appearance. Now they want to own the very principles of movement, interaction, and gameplay concepts. Right now, as I speak, small studios are removing combat systems, movement mechanics, and interaction from their games because they are not sure they can withstand a legal attack. It is in such conditions that dead genres are born. Those where the next big idea could have been emerged, but instead, fear prevailed. Many wonderful mechanics may simply disappear from games, not because they are outdated, but because someone decided to make them private property. But these systems are not Nintendo's invention. They are part of the very DNA of the gaming industry, refined by thousands of developers in hundreds of projects over decades. Large corporations have lawyers and budgets to drag cases out for years. Indies don't, and it is they, the ones who are truly creating something new, who are under attack. Meanwhile, big franchises continue to churn out safe sequels. Fuck you. Although I wouldn't say that this style of competition is characteristic of most large companies. While Nintendo hires lawyers instead of good developers, gaming giants prove their superiority with their products, not in court. Valve created Steve and did not monopolize digital distribution. Epic gave Unreal Engine to developers for free, although it probably would have been better not to. Even EA, no matter how much it is criticized, competes with games, not patents. I mean, when Apex Legends became a hit, they didn't sue the entire Battle Royale genre, they just made their project better. And if we really need to use EA as an example of healthy competition, then we are really heading for disaster. Nintendo just waits for someone to use basic mechanics that resemble those they have patented, and then they attack. Most indies don't even try to fight because it's so expensive. Those who do try are exhausted by years of court battles. And in any case, Nintendo wins. Nintendo hasn't been protecting ideas for a long time. They're protecting their monopoly on safety. So if you see a studio trying, support it. Because honestly, today, these people are risking more than just their finances. These people are risking their right to even create. Nintendo doesn't want to compete, they want to monopolize. And all we can do is wait until they patent the start menu.